evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Ellison. And I am Ellison. Listen, if you are on Facebook, please go ahead and hit the like sign. And if you are on YouTube, please subscribe. Well, listen, on Real Talk with Ellison, we talk about real issues that impact the church. We talk about issues that impact the community. And with that being said, we're about to get this show started. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. Listen, on today's show, we are going to talk about It Still Hurts. But we're doing something different on the show tonight. As you can see, our background is different. We are at the Wall Street Café in Suffolk, and we have a live audience. Yes, yes. So we are grateful to have them with us. Of course, we are so grateful to have you all online as well. And we are just so ecstatic about what is going to happen, not just with today's show, but throughout this month. This month is Mental Illness Awareness Month. And the reason why we are here today is to help out because so many people think mental health is something like schizophrenia or bipolar, but mental health is just truly something that we have gone through that has impacted us emotionally, mentally, and even physically. So mental health awareness started in 1949. That's when they started observing that there were mental health issues. And the reason why they started it was to bring awareness and to advocate for those with mental health. And that's why we are here today. We are also bringing awareness because it's time for us to heal. Yes. Amen. It is time for us to heal. So we're going to be, talking about healing. We have some wonderful ladies that's joining me. They are going to be talking about their journey. We're going to talk about how they got through. But most importantly, we want you guys to understand no matter what you are going through, you are not alone. Yeah. You are not alone, and it's time to talk about it. Right? Because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up saying what goes on in this house stays in this house. Mm-hmm. Right? So no, that's not the case. But before we get into introducing my ladies, let me give you some statistics. There's 1 in every 5 Americans that are dealing with some kind of mental health disorder. That is 57.8 million people in the United States alone that are dealing with mental health. And unfortunately, is impacting our generation from 18 to 25 more than anyone else, right? So we just want to say that we are here and we encourage you guys to let's start this healing journey together. Before I go any further, I want to put this warning out there. If you are feeling triggered in any kind of way, whether you're here in the audience, whether you're online, please either leave or just turn off your YouTube, Facebook, whatever you have. Breathe through it, talk through it, but don't just sit there and waddle in it. Okay, so I wanted to get that out. We also have a licensed professional counselor that is going to be online. So she's going to be jumping in from here and there, putting her input in and giving us some advice, right? So one of the questions that I have been asking is how are you hurting if you're supposed to be healed, right? So if you think about an injury, if anybody ever had an injury or anything like that, don't it still hurt after? Yes. Right? And I'm going to be transparent. I had a C-section 26 years ago, and let me move the right way. I still feel the pain of that C-section. So that's the same way how we feel emotional pain, right? There's a trigger to happen. Let the right circumstance or the right situation happen, then we're going to feel it. So today we have 3 wonderful ladies with us, and they are going to share their story, right? And it is our hope that someone will understand that you're not alone. Your voice matters. And most of all, let's get this healing journey started.
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. So I'm going to say in advance before I forget, thank you to our licensed professional counselor, Adrienne Smith, who's from the Up Center. She is online. Thank you for her showing up. And with that being said, Candace Cradle, hey
Hi.
boo,
Hey, boo.
how are
I'm
you?
good.
Tell us a little bit about what we're talking about today.
Whew. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I'm glad to be here. This is a big step out for me. I talk about it sometimes here and there, but today I'm going to share my journey of endometriosis with you. When I was diagnosed in 2004, it was not talked about. It was more of, oh, you are African American. You have painful cycles. You bleed heavy. It's normal. No, it's not. It's not normal. So it was literally right when my husband and I got married and we wanted to have a baby, came off birth control. They said, oh, you'll be pregnant in 6 months.
Mm.
I blinked, 6 months came and gone.
Wow.
And I'm here now, almost 20 years later, and no children.
Mm.
No children.
Mm.
7 surgeries, a hysterectomy. Hysterectomy, I thought was going to solve the problem. It still came back after they took everything out.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
listening to your body is very important. Having heavy cycles, knowing what's right for us, advocating for us is very important.
I
Important.
like that. Yeah.
Birth control is not the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the answer. So I know we do it as a precautionary measure. Times have definitely changed. I mean, I was seeing a midwife at 15, 16 years old because of my cycle.
Wow. Wow.
But I understand why parents use birth control. I'm supportive, but do your research first.
Yeah.
Know the cause and effects of it.
Yeah.
Having cycles at a young age can contribute to it. Genetics contributes to endometriosis. There's a lot more behind it. So that's what I'm sharing with you today.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, endometriosis is definitely real. Unfortunately, I suffered from that too, and something called adenomyosis, which is the
Yes.
hardening of the organs because the endometriosis is so bad, right? So yeah, it needs to be talked about more,
Right.
right? Don't ignore the heavy cycles. Don't ignore the heavy cycles. And then we have on the end down there, my Lakita S. Hey, boo, hey.
Hey everybody, I am Lakita Epps, and today I'm going to be discussing relationship drama and triggers, all types of relationships, but most importantly, parental ones, and digging into the father-daughter relationship and the trauma that it has caused with me trusting men, and then not only with that, how it has triggered with me mishandling friendships throughout the years.
Wow. That
That's a lot.
that's a show by itself. That daddy daughter thing we not going there today right now, Lord. It's not about me, Father help. And then we have the wonderful. You guys have seen her the last few weeks, and we have none other than Kendra Berry. Hey.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kendra Berry, and today I will be discussing infertility as it's in reference to PCOS. PCOS is known as polycystic ovarian syndrome. It is something that I've come to learn is high among African American women, and it can go undetected, but it is definitely something that affects your infertility, um, causes miscarriages. My husband and I have experienced three within the course of 2 years. So yeah, that's that's my hurt.
That's my hurt. And the thing that you said is so powerful is that, we've gone through miscarriages and we've been through 3 in 2 years. And nobody understands the impact that a miscarriage can cause on your mental and emotional, and if not careful, even your relationship, because we can start blaming each other. So thank you, ladies. I'm so excited to for you all to be here. I'm excited for our guests, that are here. So the question is how? Like how in the world, especially if you are, you know, Holy Ghost filled, tongue talking, foot stomping. You have the faith. Years have passed. How can you still hurt? Right? That's the question. How can you still hurt with all of this? Because the saying, get over it. It's been years. You still dwelling on that. Nobody dwelling on it. The right situation, it happens. So let me shed some light on the how. The how I can still hurt, even though I am on my healing journey, is because emotions outlast the memories that created them, even when we've dealt with them. Y'all get that? The emotion behind what had happened lasts longer, right? So what happens is we take our past emotions and we project them into our or onto our situations that are right now, right? You guys heard Lakita say, her daddy issues relationship. She didn't just say relationship with her partner. She said all kind of relationships, right? Kendra, you have her hurt with the miscarriage. You have her hurt dealing with all of that, and that comes, Kendra. And I'm gonna start with you because I know when I had my miscarriage, and I talk about it in one of our books that we won't quit. I literally didn't know I was alive until I think it was two days later. I walked in the emergency room. I was sharing with the nurse what was going on. This town that I was in won't a lot of looking like us. And the nurse, I guess, didn't believe me. And all I remember is just everything happening. And then 2 days later. That is impactful, right? So you said I've been through 3 in 2 years. Share a little bit about your hurt.
Well, we had our first miscarriage in 2022. Um, and my husband and I have been married for 11 years. When I met my husband, he was a single father doing a phenomenal job. So I gained five beautiful and creative bonus children. But we knew we wanted to have children together. So we started. I didn't get married until I was 29. And I think it was 3 years after that we found out that I had PCOS. Before that, I took it, as you said earlier, heavy periods because those are things that's associated with it. So I just took it as, okay, Harry's heavy periods, sometimes irregular periods. Just didn't pay attention to it because I wasn't interested in having a child and not being married, or that wasn't my plan. But when I got married, I was supposed to get married, had three kids, knock this chick out, the dream. And so when we got into it and we realized, okay, you have PCOS. Okay, so what do I do about it? Because it's technically our hormonal imbalance. And so what's happening is with my body, it's overproducing and underproducing in some of the hormones that I need, which is knocking everything out. So after years of going through this process, I told my husband, I said, oh, I'm okay. Maybe this is why God allowed me to marry you, because I still experienced motherhood.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed being, I don't say I'm a stepmom. I'm like, I guess an honest mom. I don't like
That's
that.
important. Yeah, that's good.
So we were just like, okay, it's cool. I got to watch the kids grow up. And then out of nowhere, this joker took me to the mountains for my birthday. Something about the mountains, boy. Came home up there, Came home and I was walking through the store with my oldest daughter, and I was like, I haven't got my cycle. So I called my husband and I was like, I haven't got my cycle yet. He said, yeah, I realized that. I was waiting for you to realize. So I took a test and was positive. And it's funny because I have a picture of his face when he was looking at it. He was like, yeah. So we were excited about it. And, we were just grateful for it to God and things like that. So we went to the doctor. She said, well, your numbers are slowly going up. If they go below a certain number, then we have a problem. And it was the day after Christmas. We had celebrated Christmas and had told my parents and things of that nature. And then the next day I said, I don't feel right. Oh, Lord. And it was just something that didn't feel right with me. We went to the emergency room and the nurse came in and she said, your numbers are 12.
Oh
Mm.
wow.
And earlier my numbers were like at 60.
Yeah.
Mm.
So when she came in and she told me that my numbers were 12, I instantly knew that I had begun to miscarriage. And I just,
Yeah.
so after that, we just took a break. And then this last time, it was after my birthday again.
Mhm.
Y'all be turning up on your birthday.
What is it about the birthdays? Yes.
After
Yes.
my 40th birthday, I said it to him again, bro, I'm late. He said, okay. So we took a test and it was positive.
Yeah.
And literally, this one was the hardest.
Mm.
Literally 30 minutes after testing, I started to miscarriage.
Whew.
30
Jesus.
minutes after
Yeah.
testing.
Yeah.
And then this last time, which was only a couple of minutes, a couple of months later, going in for a mammogram. And she said, well, are you late? I was like, yeah, but that's not anything. She's like, well, I can't do your mammogram
Yeah.
until you take a test.
Right.
Went home, took a test, took 5 of them.
Mm.
I said, babe. And then it was another biochemical.
Ooh, so as you guys heard Kendra explain some of her story, you can imagine the emotional, and Kendra, I know you wasn't going through these emotions by yourself, right? So because it does impact the family, even the 5 kids, because you sharing, you talking about what's going on, finally getting the excitement of it, and then here comes the emotional trauma. And what people don't understand is that sometimes, well, most of the time, emotional trauma last and hurt even more than the physical trauma.
Right.
Because these are the pains, these are the memories that, like I said before, the emotion outlasts the actual trauma itself, right? So in our healing journey on today, this is where if you're dealing with a situation, like Kendra, I'm gonna ask Adrian to just pop in there. What kind of coping skill, Adrian, would you say would be beneficial for Kendra? I know we would say, to breathe through it. I know we would talk about different techniques to help you, stop from processing your thoughts over and over again. But it's really important. And the reason why I'm asking her to put it in the chat are for those people that are online so that they can see it, right? And then we'll read it. So I'm hearing all of this emotion and, about surrounded around the miscarriages and, okay, I didn't know I was going to get pregnant and now I'm pregnant and I'm listening to her journey. And then I'm wondering because as each of them spoke on what they were talking about, it all impacts relationships. It all impacts relationships. And Lakita, I know you have the children, but even what's the emotional impact of your father's relationship?
Okay, so to give a backstory with my father, he's been a substance abuse person since I was a kid.
Mm.
So I'm 38, and my dad has been in and out of jail my entire life. His recently coming home November of last year. That's how long he's been in and out of jail. And you ask, why does it hurt? Because it was a repetitive thing.
Mm.
And so seeing him come and go, hurt here, see him here. I'll never forget my 13th birthday. He was home. He took me and my cousin to Pizza Hut. I got my second hole in my ear. He was with his brother, and they left. Me and my cousin were left at Pizza Hut on my 13th birthday,
Oh
and
wow.
payphones were out then. I had to call my mom at work because I didn't know where my dad was. And so it hurt me growing up and as an adult because I would cut people off
Mm.
because I didn't feel like, okay, I did this with my dad and you're supposed to honor your mother and father. I'm not doing this in other relationships. So it hurt me establishing bonds with people because I
Yeah.
didn't give them a chance to either redeem themselves or to really display forgiveness.
Mhm.
So that was my issue with learning. And I didn't know how to address it because coping skills weren't talked about.
Right. Right.
Dealing with stuff, talking about it. It was just me and my mom. People
But
was
so
used to
how do
seeing
you
it.
even talk about my father left me on my birthday? Like how do you even talk about that?
I've come to a realization. I had to go to trauma therapy. So I had to
Mm.
get a trauma coach and I had to sit through sessions and I had to be asked the hard questions. Our parents don't come and have us to say we're going to be bad parents. Then I had to look at, well, how was he raised? And I'm grateful that I had an amazing mother, and she never talked bad about him. She never said, okay, well, he not here. Everything that I did, we would mail it to him. Like, honor roll, graduation, wedding, everything. It was never down, 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 down him. Now, as an adult, I had to put up boundaries, but I didn't know what that was until December of last year when he came home, and I noticed my attitude would change when he called, or my interaction with people would be different if he was involved. So it wasn't until I had to sit down with a trauma coach and address, you are carrying this stuff and it's affecting more than just you and your dad. You're taking this out on other people. So I had to man up and own it as an adult and say, I've been hurting people because I was hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, hurt
That's
people,
deep.
hurt people.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you said that. But I want to read what Adrian said, and she's the LPC from the Up Center. She said grounding techniques can be useful as well as mindfulness techniques to help us recognize when we are not in control of our thoughts, acknowledge those thoughts, and bring ourselves back to the present, right? So grounding techniques, for you guys that don't know a lot about grounding techniques, it could be to focus on something. It could be to hold something like ice. It could be to run your hands under the water. It can, different things can help you be grounded. Mindfulness techniques is like, okay, so if I'm thinking about this, what's the reality? What's going to help me out of this, right? I like the statement that you said about hurt people, but that's not the truth. Hurt people with unresolved issues hurt people, right? That's the whole truth because we haven't resolved it, right? We haven't resolved it in us. Another part of that is silent vows. I remember in talking about daddy issues, I remember saying, I'm never going to let no man treat me like this. I'm never going to let no man say that to me like this. And my husband is here today behind the scenes, and he know if I was him, I would have left me a long time ago because I was acting a fool. Okay, I was acting a plumb fool. Who you talking to like that? What? Like, so because of those silent vows that we made when we were little, they impact our relationships. And that's what's really, really, really so important. And then so we heard their hurt, we heard their story. So Candace, you shared that you've had a hysterectomy.
Mhm.
20 years later, you don't have any children. You got those people out there to be like, girl, when you going when you gonna have some kids,
Right.
right? You got all that out there, and you don't even know the story. That's why we got to be careful when we ask questions, right? So tell us the impact of that on you in your relationship.
I would say that that is one question that needs to be removed from everyone's vocabulary. Thought process is, when are you going to have kids? Don't you want kids? Don't you know this? No, you don't know my story. You don't know what I'm feeling, why I can't. Everybody has a right to choose whether or not they have kids, and they don't owe you an explanation. Take off of that American dream. Take off of those stipulations, those requirements that come with, you know, you go to school, get a degree, get married, have kids, have the White House and the picket fence. That's null and void. When people go through things, it's hard to talk about things. It's hard to say why or why not why you have kids, why you don't have kids. But for me personally, to answer that question, it always felt like a knife in my stomach. It always felt like a knife. You know what my sister, she know what it means. And you get that question, and it's not even you get to a point where you just get to a point where you just gotta say, I can't have kids. That's the only way people stop. Then they're afraid to ask you more questions.
They just walk away.
They walk away. Oh, I'm so sorry. You can't have kids. I'm so sorry. But you're a mother to many.
Yeah.
That's not the same. I will be honest, my mother is watching, and she did the best that she could. Her, my husband, my family, my support system. They did the best that they could. None of us were educated about endometriosis. It was not talked about when I was diagnosed. Now they have stages to it. Now they got stages to it. When I was diagnosed, it was just endometriosis. We all did the best that we could with the information that we had.
Yeah.
It was a lot of research, a lot of things that we did. I tried IVF. I had an ectopic pregnancy. Relationship wise, it was hard on my husband and I because you're trying to figure out in the beginning what's wrong.
Right.
Neither one of us want to look at each other and say, are you the issue?
Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
you? And then when you find out it's you
Ooh.
as a woman, it takes everything from you. I feel like I was robbed of something that I was told I was supposed to have. I'm reminded of Hannah in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hannah. Now I'm gonna tell you, if I was Hannah, I probably would beat her a couple times. I'm gonna be real because it makes you feel that way. Yeah. Who, honey?
You said something so powerful. Me as a woman, you know, a woman, they say you are supposed to have kids and
Yep.
what you're supposed to do as a woman. And all of us on this panel, each and every one of our story is impacted by something that impacts us as a woman.
Yes.
Right? And then we're supposed to be that strong woman.
Ooh.
That's the whole thing. The strong, oh, you strong. You know, you're strong. You can make it through. You can get through this, right? But you haven't been in my shoes. It's easy to say that unless you've been in my shoes.
And it requires
So it requires so much strength. It requires so much support from everyone. But how do I get that when I'm silent? And that's why we have to, that's why we're here today using our voice. It's time to stop being silent because you're hurting, and you're hurting, and I'm hurting. And we all walking around here. You know how we do. We got our makeup on, our lips are popping, and we looking good, and we toe up on the inside, right? So as a woman, Kendra, as a woman, how is this affecting you? And we know there's anxiety, there's depression, there's all those other things out there that we can speak to, but as a woman.
For me, it was just why. It was insecurity as to, I'm the oldest of three children. I'm the oldest grandchild, the only girl on my mother's side. So I wanted my grandmother to be there with me. My grandmother is 80, so I'm like, will she be there with me when I have my first child? When I had our first miscarriage, I just took a week off and I just rested. But then I told myself, because we have this stigma, especially as African American women, okay, well, get yourself together.
Yes.
Right.
So I told myself, I'm going to have a week to get myself together. I'm going to have a week, just a week. And what I learned through this is that I may need more than a week. Grief is something that doesn't have an expiration date.
That's right.
But what helped me through this process was my faith in God. The fact that as I was going through this stuff, I was trying to keep it to myself to a certain extent because I knew my husband was dealing with it too. He was trying to keep his grief to himself because he knew what I was handling.
Yeah.
So as my protector, he instantly tried to dismiss what he was feeling.
Yeah.
So we and on top of that, we're both trying to hide our grief so that our kids won't see us grieve.
That's right. Yeah.
Where, my girls took it kind of hard. They were sad. My boys are just like, that's somebody else in the house.
Right.
But my girls were excited,
Yeah.
So it brought about insecurity for me. It made me feel like I said, I love my children, but I would have loved to see what our baby would have looked like.
Yeah.
Would it look like me or would it look like Justin? Would it act like him or would it act like me?
Yes.
I wanted every time I turn around in my house, I see someone that looks like my husband. I want to see somebody look like me.
Yep. I had those same thoughts.
So it played on insecurity for a while. Now for me, because initially they told me I wouldn't be able to conceive without medicine. I conceived without medicine.
That's right.
Mhm.
On them birthdays.
And no problem.
I'm sorry, that's saying
And I remember one day going in my room and praying to God and just like, okay, God, if this is your will, I'll accept it. I'll go with it. And the Lord spoke and he said, your womb is open. It's what you're putting in your body. You will not need medicine. But I didn't adhere to what he said to me at that moment. And so I'm still trying to rely on a doctor.
Mhm.
But God.
You know what I'm saying? And
But
then
God.
as I began to do my own research in reference to PCOS, it is about what you put in your body.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
If that's what's causing your hormonal imbalance.
Yeah. And the thing about you saying that is so much other hormones that they're putting on our vegetables and our food and everything else. So, when even in our organic stuff, I don't know if a lot of people
That's
know,
true.
but organic, you only have to have a certain percentage for it to be organic, and it's not really organic. So we had a comment that said strong women need support too, and that is true. But it takes a strong woman to ask for some help.
That's
Right?
Mhm.
That's a strong woman. When you can ask for some help, when you can say, hey, I can't carry this all on my own. So before I come to you, Lakita, I want to ask if there is any kind of comments or anything from our audience.
Well, I was the one that posted that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Strong women need support too.
We do have a question. It says, how can a husband, brother, or any supporting male best support the woman uh, that we love in this situation?
Mm.
Well, what I wanted from my husband was just to see his pain
Mhm.
because it made me feel like I wasn't by myself. Because as I said, he has children. So I wanted to know that this was important that this child was important.
That's good. Show me. So what I'm hearing you say is show me your
Show
emotion.
me. But what I didn't know until he shared it with me, so communication is key. Communicate. Communicate and listen. But what I didn't know is when he went to work was when he cried.
Yeah, we got to agree
You
together.
he shared with me one of the things he said, God, why would you take her through that if you were going to take?
Wow. And that's good that you brought that point up because sometimes we do question and we can question it, and why, but it's so important not to blame. It's so important not to blame God. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I wanted to say what Adrian said. Adrian, she's from the Up Center. She's our licensed professional counselor. And she said, one of the best ways to institute support is to ask what your loved one needs because every woman is different.
Mhm.
That way she may need you. What way may she need you to show up? And having the desire to help and to step in. So I think that was important because you may need one way, you may, and I may need it. So it's important for us to share how we need them to be our supportive partners. And we heard about, the children the children and about a woman, but the first man in a woman's life is her daddy.
Yes.
Is her daddy. And that is an impact, right? That, thank God for the trauma coach. I've seen a comment on that. Thank God for the trauma coach. But that is our first man in our life that's supposed to treat us right. That's supposed to show us how to be treated. That's supposed to open the doors, to take the cars up, to do all of this for us, to show us how a woman is supposed to be treated. So as a woman, Lakita, how did that impact you with that relationship with your father?
So if I can be transparent, it was hard for me to receive love from my husband. He grew up, even though his mom and dad, they had divorced, his mom and his dad loved him. And he would open doors and he would say, I love you. And he was, physical touch. Let me give you a hug. Let me give you a kiss. And I'm like, I didn't get that. So just being transparent, I was pushing that away because I didn't receive that. And that would cause friction in the home because then it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? And it wasn't that he was doing anything wrong. I didn't know how to receive it because I never saw it. I didn't see it from dad. And then my mom was so busy being mom and provider, that little piece was all that was missing. So even the hugs, now we're developing that relationship, but I was so hard and closed off I didn't know how to receive it from my own husband for years.
Wow. That is so powerful. And I'm laughing because she preaching to the choir, y'all. It was like, don't touch me. My love language 7% for touch. It's like just don't touch me, And daddy issues, and we don't understand, and that's why it's so important to, have these conversations, because this is helping each other, helping us gain some insight on, oh, maybe this is why I'm acting this way, or maybe this is why I act that way. And maybe this is why my daughter or my son or whatever may act this way, because we're going through some things, right? So let me put this healing point out there. So remember, I told y'all I have how to heal point. So here's how to heal point number one. When a person says I become anxious or depressed out of nowhere, right? The truth is our irrational fears and anxiousness can be tracked to a cause. It comes from somewhere. We're feeling low, if we're feeling anxious, if we're having some kind of feeling that is not normal, it comes from somewhere, and it needs to be addressed in order for it to effectively stop the effects. So if we don't sit with ourselves,
Yeah.
identify how we feel, deal with it longer than a week, right? And I'm not saying longer than a week and we waddling in it, but you allowing some time to sit, to feel, deal, and heal, and then you move on. How do we really stop the effects of it? Because anxiousness, depression, or anything else doesn't come out of anywhere. It might not be today. Look back the next day or the day before and find out what happened that I may be feeling like that. So that's a healing point. So I want to ask, right? How do you, and Candace, I'm gonna ask you, because Kendra, we praying for Kendra, right?
Yes,
Hashtag
baby.
prayer for Kendra, KENDRA. Hashtag prayer for Kendra, because we gonna pray for her. And you know what? 40 ain't nothing but a number, because my niece had twins. I put a business out there. So 40 ain't nothing but a number when it comes to the
Right.
Lord, amen. So we gonna try, we touching and believing that she gonna happen. You had a hysterectomy
26.
26.
at 26.
At 26.
Wow.
You had a hysterectomy at 26.
I had a total of 7 surgeries, starting from 2004 to 2011. Every other year I was in the hospital. By 26, that February, right after my 26th birthday, I had the hysterectomy. I was like, oh, cool, I'm good. You know, no more cycles. I made peace with that. I love this, they were heavy. I was like, cool, no more cycles. I don't have to worry about that every month. As soon as you come out of surgery, they wheel you in your room and they start you on hormone replacements. Within a year to a year and a half, my body rejected the hormones. I am on no hormones today. So not only did I go in menopause early, but I've been, for lack of better words, thugging it out since 26 without any hormones. And that was 2010. 2011, I was in hospital again in July. Thought I was good after that when my doctor sat down and said, well, this is what's going on. After the one in July of 2011, she said, unfortunately, I can't help you anymore.
Wow.
Who says that?
Right.
And then she says,
Wow.
don't be afraid. You don't have cancer, but I have to send you to the oncologist because they're the only ones that can do the surgery.
Without any further explanation?
The endometrioma. Let me back up. So a couple of my surgeries, they literally went in like, I guess I had about just a high tolerance for pain. One, I just wake up, it's there, and I try to get through it. And one time I went to the OBC, to the emergency room. My husband took me, and I was like, I'm trying not to wake this man up. He got to go to work in the next few hours. It's early in the morning, but I got to go. She did an ultrasound. Oh, you have another endometrioma. What? Like, I just had one removed.
Wow.
So there were 2 surgeries where they cut me open. One, as soon as she put the scalpel to my stomach and cut me open, they did like a C-section cut. It exploded. If I had waited 3 to 5 days any longer than that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. When they did the hysterectomy, it was so large and it was sitting like down and shifted that you couldn't see the whole image on the ultrasound and the imaging, all of that they did. You couldn't see it. So she said, let's leave it alone. By the time she said leave it alone, that one exploded.
My gosh.
Again, I should not be sitting here, but I'm sitting here.
But God.
But God.
Amen.
It's hard.
God.
Like right now, I've been in my seat trembling trying to keep my composure. It's hard. It's hard. I went through that period, as I said, with my family. We all trying to figure this out together. My best friend for over 20 years is in the audience with me today. She was out to sea, but when she came home, she came to my doorstep. So I had to have a village.
Yes.
I don't even know if I answered your
Yes.
question,
No, you fine.
but
Listen, you are
it's
so fine.
it's
That's what
hard.
for.
Days like right now, I'm gonna sit in my feelings. I'm gonna feel. I can't even tell you how many godchildren I have that I love dearly. I love dearly. Like Kendra said, I wonder what mine would look like. Who would it act like? Then I joked with my husband. I said, Lord, by the time we both really had kids, I don't know, we might have had a baseball team or something because my dad's side of the family can populate, his side of the family can populate. And it was like, okay, we just wanted two,
Mm.
one of each.
Listen.
We're happy for one,
Yes.
but I'm here
But you're here.
and I still have my husband.
And you still have your husband.
Amen.
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 Yes. Amen.
That's the part.
Amen.
And I always
Amen.
say, God must have picked him because I don't think anybody else would have stayed with me.
Amen.
It's hard.
That's a whole piece.
So when
right
you're talking
there.
about your husband and how he's feeling, mine did the same thing.
Yeah.
Didn't show it all to me because he wanted to make sure I was good.
Right.
That's
Right.
Like they want to make sure
They
we
want
good.
to show,
Yeah.
like they don't even want you.
Right.
I speak for my husband. Like he don't even want you to ask about him sometimes because
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
hurts it right back to you.
Yeah. And I want to jump on that. I want to jump on what you said about that. I mean, I know it's about us and talking about the women, but for the guys that are watching and for the women, I want to jump on that really quickly because I think what she just said is so important. But I want to read this comment. She said, "This is very good." She said, "I very recently found through hurt why I constantly sought validation.
Mhm.
My need began in the womb of my mother. People need in the womb of her mother.
Mhm.
People need the opportunity to get the pain and the hurt out. And that's the space we're creating. I want to jump on your comment, Kendra, because I think that's very important about your husband and the support and being there for you. And the husbands, listen, it's important for the husbands to show the support because at the end of the day, you should be my safe place. You should be my safe place and I should be yours. Right. And if we are each other's safe place, then we have to learn to talk it out. Even if I don't know, because a lot of men don't really know how to express their emotions. And that's a whole nother show. We're gonna be talking about that in June. So that's a whole nother show about be quiet, men don't cry, men don't have emotions. So now I have this woman saying, I need you, I want your support, I need your encouragement, but I don't really know how. Instead of allowing it to cause an argument and cause disconnection between us, it sounds like you guys' relationship started growing even more closer together. The connection was
It
there.
definitely was. One thing about it, my husband was great throughout the entire process. He tried the best that he could to understand how important it was for me,
Mhm.
to understand where I was coming from. Um, my mother suggested that we plant a tree in memory of the baby. So our anniversary after we miscarried, he had a tree in the backyard for me. And that was like better than anything you could have. And the tree is growing.
Oh, can I put his name out there?
Yeah.
Oh, Justin! Y'all give it up for Justin!
But the tree is growing, and that is just he's always supportive. So that was nothing I ever really had to be concerned about. What I was concerned about was him not dealing with how he felt about it.
Yeah.
Because he just wanted to make sure I was good,
Yeah.
which I am greatly appreciative
Yes.
of.
Yeah.
But as his partner, I also wanted to make
Right.
sure
Isn't that like a strong
that,
woman?
yeah,
How my man doing?
I wanted to make sure that he was okay because it was the best thing ever was to see his excitement
Yeah.
when I told him the first time I'm pregnant. Like,
So let me ask this question. So I hear you talk about his excitement, right? I hear you talk about the picture you took about his excitement. So now I'm dealing with, and this is what I'm saying, you don't understand what we all go through. Because if you're listening to these stories, they're not only talking about the effects that it has on them, they're talking about the effects that it has on their family, and effects that it has on their partner, right? So I have to deal with now this miscarriage. And then I have to deal with the fact that, man, look at this look that was on my husband's face.
I had to deal with the having to tell my dad.
Mm.
Um, I told my brothers I was pregnant, and my mother took it hard. Um, I couldn't tell my brothers. I had to ask my mom to tell my brothers, and it took them a couple of months to before they could kind of say like, "You okay?" And it was okay.
Yeah.
It was because I'm their big sister. God knows I got one of my brothers is 6'8", big dude. So I've always had two big brothers. So and they're outside of like my dad and my husband. Like you don't play by my boys.
Mhm.
So that was hard for me. You know, my grandfather. I'm blessed to be 40 and have three grandparents still living.
Wow. Amen. That is a
And
blessing.
moving and driving and doing everything. So I had to tell them that was, and they were being supportive of me, but you could kind of hear the sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And me just being me, that was hard.
Yeah. So I want to say this really quickly, and then we have a question from the audience. Not everybody has a spouse, right, to help be a supportive partner. That's why it's so important to have that confidant. It's so important to have the circle that you can have, right? And I don't know, Adrian, is there any kind of support groups or anything like this that we can put in the chat maybe to help, because this is not a one or two thing. This is a lot of women are going through this. I'm gonna take the question from the audience, and then Key, I'm coming to you, Keita.
So the beauty of it all that I get from this, for all four of y'all, is that God has never left none of y'all.
Never left.
God has completely been on time for all of y'all. And y'all story gives that God is real.
Yes.
And I say that because I don't know your story, but you basically fed off of her story and said that, you had to open up for your husband to be able to touch you and so forth. And you have a husband that's sitting right here to the left of all of us. And I'm looking at this on my phone and watching y'all, and I'm like, okay, this man is working this thing. So when it's over, I gotta ask him, what you over there doing? You have your support system that maybe you did not have.
Mhm.
So God did not leave you.
Yeah.
You over there, honey. I know your husband. And I've called on your husband. Coco's called on your husband. Troy calls on your husband. The community calls on your husband.
Yes.
I had a conversation about your husband about 2 weeks ago, because I build houses, he's into the houses. Like, so you got what you wanted. Even though it wasn't from your father, you got it in your husband. God didn't leave you.
Amen.
You have a very caring husband, and I know he pours that all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. So yes, he sure
All
does.
of us can trip. He gonna pick us up.
Right.
Right. Okay. So you have that. I want to come to you. I'm sorry. I hope I'm taking this whole thing.
No, you fine.
2 more minutes. Oh, 1 minute.
30 seconds.
I want to come to you. It seems like you care so much about how everybody else feels, and you have a group, a whole community around you that feel for you.
Yeah.
God ain't never left you.
Not 1 second.
Not at all.
At
Your
all.
tree is gonna continue to grow.
Yes, it is.
And last but not least, baby, I know that you didn't get to see what your baby may look like, but you have so many children in this world. Like that whole school love you so much. Them kids want to sit on your lap every time I'm over there. So God is giving you kids and kids and kids and kids. You get to watch them go to prom and they love on you and tell them their secrets. So I just want to tell all y'all that God is not
Thank you.
letting none of y'all.
So I hope you guys heard her. I hope you guys heard her. So basically, she was saying God has not left us, and He has not. And she was saying how I fed off of her. This is not about me, but I can go. My story filters through all of them, right? So Lakita, with your dad, and yeah, we know and love Dominique. I've known you guys forever, right? God has replaced, right, what you needed this whole time. And sometimes, and this is the journey us as women we go through when we become strong, we become independent, and when we're making these silent vows, sometimes we can't see it.
Yeah.
And we can almost lose it, right? And we can make it harder because we're missing it. So with your relationship, how supportive was Dominique? And the reason why I'm asking for that is because I told you guys I was a hellion in the first few years of marriage. I was. And my husband, was really supportive and encouraging. And it felt like I was doing everything to push him away because I didn't know what it was like to have a good relationship. But he was supportive. So when did you start seeing that support, that not start seeing it? When did you start receiving it is the question. When did you start?
I would say a few years ago when my dad was released from incarceration and my husband allowed him to come stay with us. Even this time, this January, when my dad needed his bills paid and he asked to come stay at our house, and I had to say no, that was my boundary. But my husband paid his rent and his utilities for the month so that he would have somewhere to go. And as much as I said no, 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 that was him showing me you may not want him to come here, but your dad is good. And so I had to step back and understand. And it's funny you guys say that today. I was just sharing with Kadeen earlier today that, you know, I didn't, it's coming full circle. And I'm glad you said that, Tamaya, because I do get to see my husband be a father, not just to my children, but to other people. Every church that we've been affiliated with, if it's time for us to move on, we have a additional child. And I was telling Kadeen, like, I'm grateful that our children are receptive to that.
Yeah.
They call other people their brothers and sisters and they allow us. But it wasn't until, I submitted because I used to bump against it. I was one of those wives too, let's be real. But it was because I didn't see it. I didn't understand it. And it was just him loving on people that didn't have fathers. And now it's making sense. And it's like, once I followed his leadership, I'm able to come on board. And if they're your kids in the community, they my kids too. And now the girls are able to say, no, that's not church brother, church. We're not bro and sis. That's my brother. That's my sister. And so it wasn't until I honestly, to be transparent, when I got in line with the vision of the household, that I was able to receive it.
That's good. I think that's so powerful. And Dominique, you having the girls, seeing how he's a father, because our family dynamics impact our relationship, right? Family dynamics definitely impact all kind of relationships. So how we grow up is going to impact our relationship with our girlfriends, and we're going to impact relationships with, our, intimate partners as well. So I want to say this: when we become emotionally strong, we do not assign value to every feeling we have. Women are emotional creatures and everything is a feeling, and we got to try to validate every feeling. But it's important not to do so because, for instance, if I'm not happy tomorrow, like I was happy today, oh, what's going on? Or maybe I'm feeling depressed, or maybe I'm this. No, stop trying to validate that feeling. Just say, today just wasn't like yesterday. Maybe the sun wasn't shining and it's raining today. Stop trying to validate, stop trying to put a label on that. Right? We want to be labeled something. No, like, how you doing? Listen, the sun ain't shining today, but I'm gonna be all right. I'm not depressed. Right? I think that's important that we don't value that we don't put value on those feelings all the time. And I know we're running out of time, but if y'all can just hang out with us for a few minutes more, I want to talk about, pushing feelings away. And you said you took off a week, right? How, the question I'm going to ask each of you that we're about to, wrap up with is, how did you handle your feelings? Because, we say, oh, I'm just going to get over it. But then they still back here and we wonder why we acting and behaving a certain way. So, Kendra, you want to start?
For me, it was acknowledging my miscarriage. I didn't, even though it was early, and you know how some people was like, will be like, well, that was a baby. No, it was, it was life. And I didn't want to feel ashamed to say I had a miscarriage. I didn't want to be shamed for talking about it. I didn't want to, I had to acknowledge that my baby existed. That's what was important to me. And we call the baby baby B.
Baby B. Yeah.
Baby B, because baby B existed. I was not going to sit here and ignore the fact that I had a miscarriage because of embarrassment, or because you made a good point. God did what he told me he would do, which was I would conceive without medicine.
Right. Yeah.
That's what blew my mind. That's what kind of helped me heal. And that's what made me, you said something earlier about blaming God. Neither one of us, not once did we blame God, because I said, God, you did what you said you were going to do. I actually conceived without medication, and not once, but two more. So guess what? One of those joints gonna work.
Right.
So I had to change the trajectory of how I looked at it, and I surrounded myself with great friends.
Yeah.
I have a best friend in Maryland. And I start to say anything negative, and sometimes she'll not get in screaming matches.
Yeah.
But she's like, "No, you're not going to talk to. You're not saying that today. Okay, I'll talk to you when you got some
right." Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good. Did you say that? We have a question.
Question from YouTube is: have you forgiven your father for his failure to be a parent or to be present? I think that's what it is.
I think I'm currently going through that now. I wouldn't say I 100% forgave, because I would be lying. However, I have taken steps to move toward forgiveness. So I've set boundaries. So I've let him know you can't call and ask for money anymore. I've told him he can't come stay with us anymore. And I have a trauma coach. Not as consistent. I was going once a month. I do need to pick that back up because of the last phone call we had. I did realize that my emotions were all over the place. So that was a trigger for me. Nope, you need to call your coach back. So have I 100%? No, but I've put things in place that protect me from lashing out or constantly replaying the situations over and over again.
Wow, that's good. It still hurts, y'all.
It does.
It still hurts, y'all. And triggers are real. And thank you, Adrian. She said that here are some resources online that offer support. She's a advocate for in person being best, but there's virtual communities out there as well, right? So Kendra, thank you for sharing. About how you dealt with your feelings. I wanted you to share, and then you to share, and then we gonna wrap up.
Initially, it was hard. Going through the process. I didn't go to baby showers. I didn't want to be surrounded by people. I've had friends and family that literally, as I was going for a surgery, they're giving birth. This is every other year. So I stopped doing those things. I stopped being a part of those things. I would honestly say that it's a still work in progress. I would tell you, I was triggered last week. And the question is, I would say to God, you knew this is what I wanted. You knew I wanted this. So why would you allow this person if you knew they weren't going to be present? They were going to be wasn't going to take care of their child. They were going to do something. I had those questions. I had those questions, and I still and just I had to talk to God.
Yeah.
It's a faith walk every day.
Every day.
It's a faith walk every day just to say, okay, now I done got to the point where I done realized working in the school system, I get to come home
No drama.
with no drama. It's me and my husband.
Yeah.
Because I tell the kids, if y'all were my kids, I don't know how y'all wouldn't survive in my household. Like, I've gotten to that point. It has given me a different perspective. And it's funny, Tamaya said about prom because they're harassing me to go to prom next week, and I'm still debating if I'm going. But it's still a walk every day.
Still a walk.
Because I've like my sister here, I feel her pain.
Yes, Lord.
Like you said, those questions that you have, those things that you go through, I still feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, those scars. Don't let me hit that railroad track on Wilroy good real good. I can feel the pain.
Yes.
So it's an everyday process.
Everyday process.
Was I close to God in the beginning? I knew who he was, but it allowed me to build a relationship with him.
Yeah.
Am I still walking it out? I do.
Yeah.
To my sister Keita, I know about that daddy relationship.
Girl.
He was in and out of my life.
Ooh.
God rest his soul. One thing I had to do before he left from here, go sit in the hospital and tell him I forgave him.
That's right.
He didn't say one word back. All he did was squeeze my hand. And one thing I realized with my mother, and I know she's still watching, and I told my sister this as well, their parents only could give them so much.
That's right.
I don't know everything that happened in their life. I can't change none of that. But the same grace that I extend to my mother, who's been with me since I've been in the world, I had to extend to my father, even though he was not here.
Amen. Yes.
Because I can't expect God to extend grace to me if I don't extend that grace to him.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing. And I'll be very.
It's a journey.
We'll talk off because
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
Listen,
it's a journey.
We're gonna have some of them coming back this month because we have some things that we need to continue to talk about. So yeah, that especially that daddy thing, they got me over here cringing in my seat, but I'm not going there. It's not about me. So that's a whole separate episode right there. Here. And so tell us about your feelings. And I'm so glad that you were transparent that said, I'm still working on it.
Yes.
And it's okay. You know God loves you and everything else, but it's okay. I'm still working on it. Don't judge me. Right? Sometimes we want to judge people for what they're going through, but we can't see what you're going through. So don't judge me on that. So thank you for your transparency. That's what's going to get us healed, being transparent, telling our story. Allowing people to say, you know what, you might not be there yet, but keep holding on. Because if you hold on to God, if you just hold on and if you believe, you're going to walk this journey out. We still healing, right? We still hurting and we still healing. How are you dealing with your feelings?
Well, now journaling helps me. I keep a notebook either in my computer bag or near my nightstand. And whenever I have things to say, I'll just jot it down because initially I was an emotional eater. And I had gained so much weight, I didn't recognize myself. And my husband called one day and made me a hair appointment because I was just that far removed. And I didn't even notice that I was going down that hill. So I had to find something. And I remember people would say, smile. And I used to be like, I thought I was. Like, you just don't understand, how hurt you are on the inside shows on the outside. And I'm like, I thought I was smiling. So I had to really sit with, what is it that you're really dealing with? Can you say what it is? Can you trace it back to where it's coming from? So now it's simple as writing. And if it's too much to write, I'll open up Google Doc and I'll talk to text. I'll talk to the computer and let it type it out so that I don't get a cramp in my hand. Because if I hold it in, somebody who don't deserve it gets the wrong end of it.
That's right. I think that's really good. So we're going to wrap up. Adrian, can you please let us know some information about, what happens when you hold all of this trauma in? What can that really lead to? Can you put that in the chat for us? Because I think that's important for us to identify the importance of getting these emotions out, right? What goes on in this house stays in this house. I don't know who came up with that statement, but
not true.
And sticks and bones might break my bones, right? So let me leave you guys with this, and thank you so much for staying on with us and staying here in the audience. We know we're a little past time, but don't use logic to deny your emotions. What am I saying by that?
I shouldn't feel this way because, or, well, you know what, somebody's worse off than me, honey, but somebody's better off than you too, right? So we shouldn't use logic to deny our emotions and, instead validate your feelings.
That's right.
I am angry right now. It's okay to be angry, but then we got to understand what's really happening, because anger is that surface emotion. So validate your feelings, right? And when you validate your feelings, acknowledge them. Sit with them for a minute and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way, right? And then you say, how am I staying in this emotion benefit me? Is it hindering me? If I stay angry, you said, if I stay angry and I bottle up inside, that poor little Walmart shopper or that poor little Walmart worker who didn't know where such and such was is going to get all of it from daddy, mama, and all of them, right? They're going to get it all. So identify what's really going on. Your feelings are valid. Your voice matters. Your voice, you hear the most. So it's important to speak. Kendra, you said your friend said no negativity. Do you know growing up in a positive household is even 70% negative? That's in a positive household. I'm way up in the thousands from my household. But anywho, so that's a positive household. So we want to say thank you so much for our panel. Thank you guys for watching Real Talk. Our guests, thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate you guys. So you have been watching Real Talk with Ellasin. We're talking about it still hurts. We're healing. And all that don't talk about it. No. Let your voice be heard. And you know what? Let God let you know who to give your voice to.
That's right.
That's the whole other piece. Because everybody's not ready for your story, right? So in closing, I want to say this. We talk about self-care and we talk about self-love, especially on the feeling, healing, and dealing journey, right? So I want to say, if you want different, you have to do different. You can't keep saying, I want different, and you doing the same thing, being around the same people and all that stuff. So we talk about self-care, we talk about self-love, but let me say, ultimately, the true expression of self-love is admitting that sometimes I don't even like myself. Sometimes I can't even deal with me. That's the true meaning of self-love. And then coming up with a step and some plans to change those behaviors. If the same thing is happening in relationship after relationship after relationship, boo is you, right? It's me. It can't be. I'm the common denominator. And sometimes, no, we don't like ourselves because of the things we say and the things we do, the mistakes we made. But what does that look like to change all of that? Ladies and gentlemen, hear me. It is time for us to heal, right? We are a powerful people, and we are held in bondage because of our emotional and mental trauma. And it's time to let it go and be who we are created to be. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, but we can't see past our trauma, right? And that's what we're trying to do here on, not trying, that's what we are doing here on Real Talk with Ellasin. It still hurts. So it's an important step to the journey of healing is to think how it would feel to have a mental and emotional health lifestyle that you want. What does that look like? If I'm mentally and emotionally whole, what does that look like? And what does it look like for me to achieve that? And let's make it happen, right? So I want to say this. What is stopping you from being whole? Are you in your own way? Thank you so much for our panel, for Lakita Epps, for Kendra Berry, for Candace Cradle. Thank you so much for our guests. They have been wonderful. We thank you. It's so much more to their story. A couple of them we're going to have back, on other shows later on, every Thursday at 7 o'clock. Thank you to our wonderful guests. I'm beautiful, y'all all. Even the men, y'all look good too. Thank you to my hubby for being behind the scenes. I appreciate it. And thank you all online. Adrian, thank you, Adrian. She's with the Up Center. So I want to thank you so much for her being online. She's our licensed professional counselor. And I want to say, tune in to Real Talk with Ellasin tomorrow. No, Lord. Next Thursday at 7 p.m. We have more stories, more healing to come, right? Thank you so much for watching Real Talk with Ellasin. God bless.